Ashenden by Somerset Maugham. This is slightly falling apart, and I just need to glue that back on, I think. But other than that, it's a good, solid bit of work with some foxing on the top there. And it's got a old ribbon that hasn't quite fallen apart, but doesn't look very pretty. Like the end papers here. Just show you some of the. It's got a texture here to the book. That's nice. And once I glue this bit on, it'll seem in pretty good condition. It's Ashenden, or the British Agent, by Somerset Maugham. This is was written in the 20s, I think, although this edition came out in 68. And it's basically a, there are some illustrations here. It's basically some stories. It's one cohesive book, but the truth is it's a sort of a set of stories of Ashenden, who was a British agent stationed mainly in and around Switzerland, which was neutral during World War I, of course, and World War II. And so he wasn't really supposed to be doing spying activities there, but that's where he was. This is during, I mentioned World War I and World War II. This was during World War I. Here he's slipping a revolver in his pocket. And so it's his, Ashenden is a writer before the war, but he was brought in to help manage spies and do bits and odds and ends during the war. Because he's got a certain way of keeping emotions out of things, and he understands people. Being a writer, I guess, that's the conceit. Now, Somerset Maugham himself was did work for the intelligence service during World War I, so he knows something about what he's talking about, and he this is not fancy suits and fast cars, gadgets and gizmos and that kind of spy thing. In fact, for there's really very little action or violence at all. They made a mini-series about this in the 90s, a British mini-series, where they picked 4 of the stories that were told in here. And I just happened to look through it the other day, and the very first one they picked, there's this fight with a gun and all that. None of that happened. None of that happened in the actual story in the book. There is some violence, but it's off screen, it's off out of the story. Things do happen. People are killed. But Ashenden is not that kind of person. He is not, he carries a gun sometimes just in case, but anyway, look, the stories are much more along the line. I think of John le Carré, and even less so, where even less action than that, where it's sort of the day-to-day kinds of real life kinds of thing, conversations that he has, things that are set up, and then maybe he doesn't even necessarily follow through on the other end of it. There are certain people that he has to talk to. Anyway, so it's a much more calm kind of book. I really, really like it. I like the way that Maugham writes anyway, and I like the stories that he tells here. This is sort of a collection of stories, really. I mean, it is chronological, I guess, but it's really just each sort of, it's not that each chapter is its own story, but a set of chapters might cover one arc. Anyway, I really like his writing. He wrote this about 100 years ago. I like the style of it. I like the dry wit. So yeah, I haven't read that much Maugham. I've read some other short stories. I've got another short story collection. I've never read Of Human Bondage, which is his masterpiece, supposedly, and I've never read Cakes and Ale, though I own it. I haven't read it yet. But I definitely will. I love the way he writes. So anyway, in this case, we have Ashenden. It's not even written on the spine here. Oh, there it is. Yes, Ashenden. This collection of complete works, I suppose, I have two of them. I have this one in Cake's Nail, and I suppose they went through and bound them all in this kind of binding, but as I say, I only have these two. But maybe I could pick up some more Heron books. I think it's bound well, and the paper is reasonably thick and got a ribbon. So yeah, I would get more. Just just need to glue that together. Okay, Ashenden by Somerset Maugham.